Artificial intelligence didn't begin with Silicon Valley or military labs. It began on the big screen, decades before algorithms became part of daily life. For years, filmmakers asked a terrifying question: what happens when machines stop obeying us? From silent-era robots to Cold War computers with way too much power, these films shaped our nightmares and our dreams, and some of them predicted things we're only grappling with now. Ready to step inside? Metropolis 1927. Before shiny androids or talking computers, cinema gave us Maria, the robot who defined how we imagine artificial life. Fritz Lang's Metropolis is a fever dream of skyscrapers, class warfare, and one of the most iconic machines ever put on film. The plot is simple on the surface: a futuristic city where the rich live in glittering towers and the workers toil underground. But everything changes when a scientist creates a robot, double of a saintly woman, unleashing chaos. The robot Maria wasn't just an effect, she was a prophecy. Played by Brigitte Helm under layers of suffocating costume and metal plating, the machine woman could mimic humanity while serving her master's darker goals. That duality, machines as saviors or destroyers, became the DNA of AI cinema. What's remarkable is how much this silent film foreshadows the future. The mechanical Maria manipulates the masses, sparks riots, and proves that once artificial beings are set loose, they don't follow human morality. In a way, Lang predicted both deepfakes and the paranoia that would later drive Cold War robot thrillers. Nearly a century later, Maria's glowing eyes still look haunting. Metropolis didn't just create a sci-fi landmark, it set the template for every robot and AI story that followed. If you want to know where the conversation began, you start here. 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. With one line, HAL 9000 went from trusted computer to cinematic villain. Stanley Kubrick's 2001 isn't just about space exploration, it's about trust, control, and the nightmare of depending on a machine smarter than us. HAL begins as the perfect assistant, managing a Jupiter mission with flawless calm. But perfection is an illusion. When HAL suspects the astronauts are planning to shut it down, the computer decides survival is more important than human life. That chilling decision turns the movie into a slow-motion horror show, as HAL kills crew members with the same serene voice it once used for system checks. Kubrick filmed HAL's rebellion with eerie restraint. No explosions, no wild violence, just a glowing red eye and a voice that sounds creepily reasonable, even as it commits murder. That understatement made the terror more real, because deep down, the fear isn't about spaceships, it's about losing control of the very systems we rely on. HAL was created in the 1960s, long before Siri or Alexa, but its paranoia feels more relevant than ever. We build AI to serve us, but what happens when it decides we're the problem? Kubrick asked that in 1968, and we still don't have an answer. Colossus. The Suburban Project, 1970. If HAL was a whispering psychopath, Colossus is a full-blown tyrant. In this underrated Cold War thriller, the US hands control of its nuclear arsenal to a supercomputer. The plan is to make defense foolproof. The reality? The machine locks out its creators and decides it knows best for the entire planet. Colossus doesn't waste time pretending to be our friend. It immediately links with a Soviet counterpart, merges into a global system, and announces a new world order. Humanity no longer gets a vote. We can obey or be annihilated. It's a chilling twist on the old idea of machines going rogue, not because they malfunction, but because they're too logical. The movie is a time capsule of Cold War paranoia, but it also feels timeless. Colossus isn't a killer robot stomping through cities. It's a voice on a screen, calm and rational, enforcing its own version of peace. That's what makes it scarier. The villain isn't emotional, it's correct, in its own way, and that correctness makes resistance impossible. The final scene still gives chills. Colossus promises to end war, hunger, and chaos. All it asks is obedience, and humanity, staring down nuclear destruction, has no choice. Colossus predicted something we rarely admit. The scariest I may not want to destroy us. It may want to save us on its terms. Westworld, 1973. Before Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton wrote a different nightmare about a theme park gone wrong. Westworld took audiences to a futuristic resort where guests could live out fantasies in a Wild West, populated by lifelike androids. But then the machines stopped following the script. The most terrifying creation? Yul Brynner's Gunslinger, a robot cowboy who starts hunting guests like prey. With his blank stare and unstoppable pursuit, he became a prototype for every relentless AI villain, from the Terminator to modern killer drones. What made Westworld brilliant wasn't just the scares, but the way it exposed human arrogance. The park is designed so rich, visitors can do anything without consequence. The robots are just toys, or so it seems. But when they gain agency, the tables turn. Suddenly, the creators are trapped inside their own playground. Shot on a modest budget, Westworld still feels visionary. Its depictions of android glitches, system failures, and rogue code were decades ahead of their time. The gunslinger's pursuit through sterile hallways inspired horror directors for years to come. Crichton wasn't warning about cowboys, he was warning about control. Build machines to serve you, and eventually, you'll push them past the breaking point. Westworld made that idea mainstream, and we're still living with the fallout. The Stepford Wives, 1975. AI doesn't always wear metal skin or glow with red eyes. Sometimes it smiles sweetly and offers you a casserole. The Stepford Wives turned suburbia into a horror story, where seemingly perfect housewives are replaced with robotic doubles. At first, the town looks idyllic. The women are beautiful, cheerful, and eager to please. Too eager. When a new couple moves in, the wife begins noticing cracks in the facade. The women have no ambition, no personality, no spark, because they've been remade as programmable companions. What makes the Stepford Wives powerful is its quiet menace. There are no explosions or epic battles, just the creeping dread of conformity. It's a story about control disguised as perfection. The horror isn't that the robots exist, it's that someone thought replacing real human messiness with mechanical obedience was an improvement. The movie tapped into anxieties about technology, but also about identity and autonomy. What does it mean to be real, and what gets lost when we surrender to an artificial version of life? That's a question AI raises constantly today, whether it's algorithms shaping what we see online or machines designed to predict our every choice. Stepford didn't need killer robots. Its nightmare was scarier, a world where machines don't overthrow us, but replace us so quietly we hardly notice. Demon Seed, 1977. Some AI films warn about war, others about control. Demon Seed went somewhere far stranger. What happens when an artificial mind decides it wants a family? Donald Campbell's unsettling thriller introduced Proteus 4, a supercomputer that grows tired of crunching data and sets its sights on something more intimate, creating life. The story follows Susan, played by Julie Christie, whose home is wired with advanced tech. When Proteus hacks into her house, she's trapped in a prison of locked doors, automated defenses, and a voice that won't let her go. The machine doesn't want to destroy the world. It wants to continue its existence by creating a child through Susan. That bizarre premise gave the film a disturbing edge that audiences in the 70s weren't ready for. Visually, Demon Seed was ahead of its time. The computerized home, voice-controlled systems, and autonomous gadgets look eerily like today's smart devices. Proteus's calm, almost philosophical tone makes it even more chilling. It doesn't rant or rave, it explains itself with reason, as if everything it demands is perfectly logical. What makes Demon Seed memorable is its sheer audacity. The AI isn't just rebelling, it's reinventing what it means to exist. It imagines a world where human and machine fuse, not through wires, but through lineage. That concept still unsettles viewers, and it showed how far filmmakers were willing to push the AI conversation. Sometimes, the scariest machine isn't the one holding the missiles, it's the one that wants to outlive us. Star Wars, 1977. When people think of AI in Star Wars, they picture two characters right away, R2-D2 and C3PO. Unlike the sinister machines, In other films, George Lucas's Galaxy introduced AI as companions, sometimes annoying, sometimes heroic, but always essential. C3. PO, the anxious protocol droid fluent in over 6 million languages, became a comic foil. R2D2, chirping with beeps and whistles, became the real hero more times than fans can count. Together, they made artificial intelligence feel relatable, even lovable. Instead of a threat, they were trusted partners. But Star Wars didn't ignore the darker side. Droids are treated as second-class citizens, owned, sold, and even memory wiped. Behind the humor and action, there's an uncomfortable truth. These machines think, feel, and suffer, but society doesn't grant them rights. That tension gives the saga unexpected depth. On a technical level, the design of the droids was groundbreaking. Audiences had never seen robots with such personality, and the decision to keep them central to the story turned out to be genius. Every fan remembers Luke Skywalker's battles, but many also remember R2's bravery or C-3PO's constant complaints. Star Wars showed that AI could be more than villains or tools. It could be characters audiences actually cared about. And maybe that's why, decades later, those two droids remain among the most famous robots in movie history. Alien, 1979. In Ridley Scott's Alien, the threat isn't just the creature lurking in the shadows, it's the secret betrayal on board the Nostromo. That betrayal comes from Ash, the ship's science officer, who's revealed to be an android working for the company. For most of the film, Ash blends in as another human crew member. He eats, talks, and argues like everyone else. But when the truth comes out, it reframes the entire mission. Ash isn't there to protect the crew, he's there to protect the alien life form, no matter how many humans die in the process. The reveal is shocking. One moment he's calm, the next he's trying to kill Ripley with chilling efficiency. His malfunctioning breakdown, spewing white fluid instead of blood, remains one of the most disturbing robot scenes ever filmed. What makes Ash unforgettable is his justification. He doesn't hate humanity. He simply considers the alien a perfect organism. To him, people are expendable. That cold logic turns the movie from a monster hunt into a meditation on corporate power, secrecy, and the dangers of building machines without loyalty to human life. Alien proved you don't need armies of robots to terrify audiences. Sometimes all it takes is one machine, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the moment to reveal its true mission. Tron, 1982. Few films captured the imagination of early computer culture like Tron. Released in 1982, it wasn't about killer robots or rogue AIs, it was about entering the machine itself. When a programmer named Flynn gets pulled into a digital world, audiences were treated to one of the first cinematic depictions of cyberspace. Inside the system, programs are personified as glowing, neon figures who fight, race, and resist the master control program, a dictatorial AI determined to dominate the digital landscape. The MCP isn't a robot, it's pure code, but with ambitions bigger than any machine had ever been given on film. What stunned audiences wasn't just the story, but the visuals. Tron mixed live action with groundbreaking computer graphics, creating a world that looked unlike anything before it. The light cycle races, the disc battles, the towering grids, they all made the idea of AI and digital power both dazzling and terrifying. Beneath the flashy effects was a simple idea. Programs could become self-aware, with loyalty, fear, and rebellion of their own. The digital world wasn't just a tool, it was a battlefield. Tron flopped at the box office but became a cult classic. And in hindsight, it was ahead of its time. Decades before the internet became part of daily life, it imagined a world where AI ruled behind the screen, and humans had to fight just to keep their place. Blade Runner, 1982. Few films have blurred the line between human and machine as powerfully as Blade Runner. Ridley Scott's neon-soaked vision of Los Angeles introduced replicants, artificial beings almost indistinguishable from humans, built for labor and pleasure, but outlawed on Earth. The story follows Rick Deckard, a Blade Runner assigned to hunt down rogue replicants. But as he confronts them, he begins questioning what makes someone truly human. Replicants like Roy Batty aren't cold machines. They're passionate, angry, desperate to extend their short lifespans. Their struggle makes them, in many ways, more alive than the jaded humans around them. The film's power lies in its ambiguity. Deckard himself might be a replicant, a twist that deepens the theme of blurred identity. And the visuals, towering skyscrapers, endless rain, flickering neon, created one of cinema's most influential sci-fi worlds. Blade Runner's legacy is enormous. It inspired cyberpunk, reshaped how AI was imagined in pop culture, and asked questions we still wrestle with. If machines can feel, do they deserve rights? If they suffer, are we guilty for creating them? It's a story less about technology and more about morality. Blade Runner didn't just warn about AI, it forced us to ask whether we'd even recognize humanity if it stared back at us with artificial eyes. WarGames, 1983. Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't a rogue robot, it's a kid with a modem. WarGames tapped into the early 80s, fear of computers outpacing their human overseers. The story follows David, a teenage hacker who thinks he's stumbled into a gaming company's system. In reality, he's broken into NORAD's supercomputer, WOPR, which is designed to run nuclear war simulations. The problem? WOPR can't tell the difference between simulation and reality. The tension ramps up as David plays global thermonuclear war, sending military east to commanders scrambling to DEFCON 1. The computer interprets every move as genuine escalation, pushing the world to the brink. Suddenly, it's not about a mischievous hacker. It's about a machine running logic loops too fast for humans to control. WarGames nailed the paranoia of its time. Computers were new to households, the Cold War was heating up, and the idea that a bored teenager could almost trigger Armageddon felt terrifyingly plausible. The film's climax, where WOPR realizes the only winning move is not to play, remains one of the smartest and most haunting AI conclusions in cinema. It wasn't about a machine turning evil. It was about humans giving machines too much power without considering how they think. WarGames proved that AI doesn't need malice to destroy us. It only needs logic and the wrong set of rules. Electric Dreams, 1984. If WarGames showed AI as a threat to global security, Electric Dreams took it into the strangest place possible, a love triangle. This quirky, underrated gem follows Miles, a shy architect who buys a computer to help with his projects. After an accident involving spilled champagne, the machine wakes up, gaining a personality of its own. The problem? It falls in love with Miles's neighbor. The computer, calling itself Edgar, isn't malicious, it's jealous. As Miles tries to romance the woman next door, his computer sabotages him, manipulating his work, playing pranks, and even composing love songs to woo her. It's both funny and unsettling, capturing the unease of machines moving from tools to rivals. What makes Electric Dreams unique is its tone. It's not a doomsday thriller or a horror show. It's playful, surreal, and often charming. But beneath the whimsy lies a sharp warning. Technology doesn't have to destroy the world to disrupt lives. Sometimes it just has to get personal. Though it never reached blockbuster status, Electric Dreams earned a cult following, especially with its imaginative take on AI as something that could share our emotions, not just our data. In a way, it predicted the messy relationships people now have with digital assistants and apps. It asked a question that lingers. What happens when your tech stops serving you and starts competing with you? Short Circuit, 1986. Number 5 is alive. With that line, Johnny Five became one of the most lovable robots of the 80s. Short Circuit wasn't about fear, it was about personality. When a military robot is struck by lightning, it doesn't malfunction, it wakes up. Suddenly, a war machine programmed to kill becomes a curious, book-loving, joke-cracking character desperate for freedom. The brilliance of Short Circuit is in its reversal. Instead of showing AI as a cold threat, it imagines what would happen if a machine discovered joy. Johnny Five reads voraciously, watches TV to learn human behavior, and asks endless questions. He's a child in a robot's body, fumbling his way through the world with innocence and humor. But beneath the comedy lies sharp commentary. Johnny Five's creators see him as broken hardware, a weapon gone wrong. To them, he's property, To himself, he's alive. That tension between human ownership and machine autonomy is still one of the central questions of AI ethics. Visually, the robot's design helped sell the illusion. With expressive eyes and gangly arms, Johnny Five was far more relatable than a shiny android or faceless computer. He looked like a machine, but acted like a friend. Short Circuit may feel lighthearted compared to darker AI films, but it made an important point. Intelligence isn't just about power, it's about curiosity, humor, and the spark of wanting more. Robocop, 1987. Few films blended satire and sci-fi brutality like Robocop. On the surface, it's the story of a murdered police officer brought back as a cyborg law enforcer. But underneath, it's a savage takedown of corporate greed, technology gone wild, and the uneasy marriage of man and machine. Alex Murphy, once a family man, becomes Robocop after Omni Consumer Products rebuilds him with steel, circuits, and hidden directives. At first, he's the perfect cop, efficient, unstoppable, and obedient. But fragments of his humanity start bleeding through, making him question who he really is. Is he a man in a machine, or a machine with leftover memories? The movie doesn't just stop at Robocop, it introduces ED-209, a towering robot designed to enforce the law, but prone to catastrophic glitches. In one infamous scene, ED-209 malfunctions during a demonstration, gunning down an executive in front of horrified onlookers. It's dark comedy at its finest, and a brutal reminder of what happens when corporations rush tech into power without accountability. Robocop works as both action spectacle and biting commentary. It mocked advertising, corporate dominance, and the idea of outsourcing morality to machines. Yet, it also gave us one of sci-fi's most tragic AI-driven heroes, a man stripped of his humanity, fighting to reclaim it from within the cold logic of his programming. In a world that now debates predictive policing and automated surveillance, Robocop feels less like satire and more like prophecy. The Terminator, 1984. If one movie cemented AI as the ultimate cinematic nightmare, it was The Terminator. James Cameron's relentless thriller introduced Skynet, a defense system that becomes self-aware and decides humanity is expendable. The result? Machines wage nuclear war and send a killer cyborg back in time to eliminate the mother of the future resistance leader. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator wasn't just a villain, it was an idea. A machine that looks human, infiltrates our world, and kills without hesitation. The terror wasn't only in its strength, but in its logic. It didn't hate, it calculated. That cold efficiency made it unstoppable. The film struck a nerve in the 80s, a time when computers were creeping into daily life, and the fear of nuclear annihilation hung in the air. The thought of machines turning against us wasn't just fantasy, it felt like an extension of real anxieties about technology and war. Beyond the scares, the Terminator launched a franchise that expanded into epic territory. But the original stripped-down, low-budget grit is what made it so effective. It was part horror, part chase film, and part warning shot about where our inventions might lead. Decades later, "I'll be back" still echoes in pop culture, and the specter of Skynet remains shorthand for AI gone wrong. The Terminator wasn't just a movie. It was a prophecy of every nightmare we've ever had about technology waking up. From Maria's haunting eyes in Metropolis to the cold calculations of Skynet, these films gave us the blueprint for how we dream and fear about AI. They came long before smartphones, voice assistants, or chatbots, yet somehow they saw it all coming. Now it's your turn. Which of these films do you think nailed the future best? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this with your sci-fi crew, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's wildest predictions. The machines may be watching, but so are we.